My name is Matt Wayno. I'm 27 years old. I'm originally from Latrobe, Pennsylvania. I went to high school at Greater Latrobe, played soccer there, then graduated and went to school at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, studied business. When I graduated from there, I took a job locally at PNC Bank, working in investing operations for them. And I recently just bought a house with my wife in the Dormont neighborhood outside of the city. So, I've lived in Western Pennsylvania my whole life, and my whole family's here, and we're excited to start putting roots down in the area and stay. My perspective on COVID has kind of changed over time. I think initially it was very scary. There's a lot of uncertainty, and you didn't know. I think last March, it seemed like not a big deal. People were having St. Patrick's Day parties and hanging out, and it just, it seemed like something that was going on in China and not really here. But over time, you became more aware that it was serious, and I think it kind of really hit me that it was serious. There was kind of a day or two when all of the sports leagues canceled their seasons or postponed their seasons like simultaneously, and you realize that it's here. I have a lot of people within my family who are part of vulnerable populations. I have a dad with diabetes, a brother with pretty bad asthma. I have grandparents who are in their 90s, and all of those people, if they contracted the virus, there's a good chance that they might not survive it. And if I get it and unknowingly pass it to them, I would survive, but I would have to live with the ramifications of what I possibly had done to them for the rest of my life. And I took that into my own perspective in the way that I lived my life throughout this past year and a half. Making personal sacrifices because of the greater good of my family, but also you pass someone in the grocery store and you give it to them, and it could have ripple effects in their family. And I could be touching someone else's version of my grandparents or my brother, and I would never know, and it would never get back to me. But that doesn't make it okay to just do whatever you want and let someone else deal with the consequences potentially. You want to have your wedding, but you want to have it in front of the people who have impacted your life like that. And, I think we were teetering between postponing completely and not doing anything in 2020, which is when we had originally planned to get married, and doing the small event that we did. And the reason that we chose to do the small wedding in 2020 was because we wanted them to be there. As I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, life kind of came to a screeching halt. I work in an office in downtown Pittsburgh, and in mid-March they sent us fully work from home, and I haven't been back to the office since March of 2020. And I've been working at home with the equipment that they gave me, and I don't know when I'll be back to the office. So we had to adjust, working, I had to adjust with that. I had to adjust with, you go to trivia with your friends and happy hours, and go out to sporting events and do all these different things with your friends and your family, and, have dinners with family and celebrate holidays and birthdays. And, you go from that to being locked inside, basically, afraid to go outside. It's like my granddad was in the Navy, and when he was in high school, signed up to be in the Navy to fight in World War II. And the reason they did it, and everyone did at that time, they wanted to protect the future, and they wanted to protect freedom and people's way of life. And they did it without thinking. And it's disappointing to be part of a generation sometimes where, my grandparents would do that for us, and people my age are unwilling to go get a vaccine or take a shot to protect those same people. I can't imagine, people like veterans coming home from World War II and people telling them that Nazis don't exist, or, hearing about D-Day and not believing it, and someone saying, oh, I'm still going to go on my Normandy cruise. I think I took the whole pandemic pretty seriously and stayed inside and, did what I felt was right for myself and my family, but also society. But, the same way I listened to the science then, I think it's important to listen to the science when they tell you that things are opening up a little bit, because you have to trust them. And when things opened up, the Penguins were allowed to have fans in the stands, and, being a big hockey fan, I bought tickets with some friends, and, we made a night of it. Restaurants became open a little bit more higher capacity, and we went out and grabbed a pizza and a beer and went to the game. Everyone that I was with was vaccinated except me, because I was still waiting for it to open up a little bit more for me to get one. And then a few days after the game, I started having, some symptoms, sniffles and other flu-like symptoms, feeling achy. So I called a CVS and got tested a few days later as fast as they could get me in. And I had tested positive for COVID, which is kind of a shock. I knew I would be okay, but then I was worried, who could I have given it to? Could I have given it to someone? Could I have gotten it at the game or at the restaurant? Could I have given it to somebody? And it was very scary. I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything the right way, because at that point, I had COVID and that was not going to change. But, I think I could have potentially stopped other people from getting it that didn't need to. And I think that's important to, let people know when you feel sick and if you've been around them, because you can kind of stop the spread from worsening. I felt a moral obligation to get the vaccine and to protect the people around me. Everyone who knows what they're talking about in the medical community has said that the best way to defend against COVID and the spread of COVID is wearing masks and being vaccinated when it's available. So I've tried to wear masks, and when I was, able to get the vaccine, I jumped at the opportunity to do that. Because who knows how long my immunity from having it will last, and if getting a shot, helps me and the people around me, then there's no reason not to get it. When I got my first dose, my body already had COVID antibodies, so when it came in again, it was very hard for a few days. And then when I got the second dose, it was that, but for one day, but just way worse. It felt like an evening of the worst feeling I had when I had the virus originally. And as unentertaining as that night was, I would do that 100 times just to make sure that I'm protecting the people around me and protecting people like my grandparents and my family and other people's grandparents and their families. It's a small price to pay to do the right thing. You can't look at life as a selfish thing. The world does not revolve around me, and I think it's important to do what you can every day to just make the right decisions. Every opportunity you have to make a decision is kind of like a fork in the road. And I think if you just spend every day making the right decision and doing the right thing, society benefits. It makes a better world for me. It makes a better world for my future children and my family after I'm gone. I mean, if I had to give somebody, advice on how to end COVID, I would just say what I've heard from the doctors and the medical experts, and that's to, wear masks when you can and get the shot. I think getting a vaccine is a very simple thing to do. It takes an afternoon. At this point, they're extremely available if and when you can be there. There's usually an appointment somewhere close to you that you can get it. And I think if we want to get back to the way life used to be, if we want to be able to have weddings and go hang out with our friends and go out to bars and sports and do all those things that we want to do, that's the way to get it. You know, if we need to get to herd immunity, the only way to get there is for people to get vaccines. And I think if you're someone sitting at home thinking that, oh, everyone else will get it and not me, and I'll wait till everyone else does, you're just kind of going to be maybe waiting forever, because there's a lot of people who might think that way. And if you want to get out, get the shot, and get to herd immunity quicker, I think that's the only way. As hard as the last year and a half have been, I couldn't imagine if we had done all this and gone through this experience and had all this hardship and all this loss of life and loss of just time. I think time is just, you can make money, you can buy things, but you can never get time back. And if, people like my grandparents and other people in their positions have kind of lost some of the twilight of their life, and it's really unfortunate. And if we have to go back to square one because we didn't get the vaccine in time to stop a variant, it's just going to be very disappointing to me and probably to everyone. So I think we just really need to push and get, across the finish line and get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible, so that we can kind of get back to normal life and get through this and get on to the rest of our lives.